South Burbs Hitmen podcast with your hosts, Joe Mandel, Steven Zimmerman, and Vinnie Parisi. We're bringing you the White Sox coverage you need from the perspective of true Southsiders. Grab your Kaminsky dog with an ice cold beer and meet us in section 155. Everyone get on your feet for your South Burbs Hitmen.
That ball hit deep. Way back. You can put it on the board. Yes. Jimenez in the air. Left field. He's your hero tonight. Thanks, Cubs. Over the head of Jenks. Uribe charges, throws. Out. And the White Sox have won the World Series. Alexei. Yes. Yes! 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 History! A perfect game by Mark Burley, and what an unbelievable play by 21.
First pitch starts now.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome to this week's craptacular edition of South Burbs Hitmen. I'm one of your hosts, Joe Mandel, and I'm joined, as always, by my White Sox brothers in arms. I'm talking about Vinnie Parisi and Steven Zimmerman. And gentlemen, it's been a baffling day for White Sox fans, to say the least, and a day that we felt we might have a lot of hope. We still have 24 hours, less than 24 hours for the trade deadline, but you get three quality names, starters, get tossed in a package for, in my opinion, a mediocre return. So before we get going to anything, Vinny, Zim, I'll let you guys immediately react before we break down into it deeper. Vinny Parisi, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm good. I hate them. I hate the White Sox. I never realized the level of hatred I could reach for a team I adore so much. Because you guys know how I am. You know, in 2021, 2022, you couldn't pull me away from the damn TV when they were on. I was going to 30, 35 games a season. It was my life. I loved this team. I love this team. I still will say I love this team. I don't love what they do. I don't love how they are. They're kind of like that family member that you have that's like just an asshole all the time.
Do you have one of those family members?
You love them. I have plenty. You love them. Like, they're your blood, your flesh and blood, but like you'd rather hang out with like 10 friends over them. I'd rather hang out with the Red Sox. I'd rather hang out with the Yankees. I've been enjoying the Baltimore Orioles lately, a little bit of a funk lately, but I've been enjoying the Baltimore Orioles. I like the American League, as you could tell. Flip it to the National League, though. Everybody knows I love my Bravos. You know, those are the friends you like hanging out more than your family members sometimes. And yeah, it's just a joke what they've become. I'll elaborate on that trade more whenever you tell me to. I'm sure all three of us will give our thoughts and opinions. I mean, in real time, they just went down 2-1. People who are listening probably realize that they lost this game already. It's 27-81. It doesn't even sound real. So I don't think I could build the worst roster in MLB The Show on purpose, and they would sim worse than this team. So, yeah, I'll let everybody do their roundtable before we really get into the weeds of this, because I am angry.
Go ahead, Zim.
It's not really a roundtable. It's a pile-on at this point. Like, I mean, you can only beat a dead horse so much. Like, that's the frustrating part is like, it's week in and week out. We talk about all this with the Sox. Excuse me while I manage myself over here. I'm just getting settled in. Sorry, everyone. But my point with all of it is just like, it's just the latest in what's been a baffling season. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. One of the things I said to you guys after the trade came out is I have no idea what the timeline is for this team. There doesn't appear to be one. It just seems to be later. And it's just like, if you could point at something like tangible and say like, this is it. This is what we're doing. This is what we're working on. Then it would at least be a little more acceptable, right? It would be a little more understandable. Maybe not even acceptable, but just understandable. You could say, all right, well, I see where you're coming from with that one. Like, I get it. But at this point, it just feels so directionless. It feels very I don't know who else to compare it to because I haven't felt this way. I mean, it feels almost like the post Quenneville Blackhawks. You know, like those 2 years there before they really were like, all right, we need to figure something out. You know, when they still had all these aging vets, they had like to make some decisions on some younger talent because, you know, you can't pay everybody. Right before Taves and Kane eventually did leave the team. You know, that's kind of the era of the Blackhawks I'm talking about when I was like, they were clearly done winning championships, but they were clearly not rebuilding for a new one. And like, that's the sort of hopelessness, directionless feeling that I get with the White Sox right now. And I guess the Blackhawks are the hope that you can pull out of that nosedive sooner or later. You know, they found their direction. It was about 2 or 3 years ago they found that direction. So that left us with what, like 5 seasons of terrible, unwatchable hockey in Chicago. It's like, it is what it is. But, you know, they're clawing their way back now under the same management, under the same ownership that was part of that directionless mess. So maybe this is just part of the learning curve. Maybe this is part of what we're eventually going to lead to. But right now, it doesn't feel like it. It's really frustrating. It's annoying because as a fan, I feel like every single day there's something new to bitch about with this team. And that's like, that's not cool. We want to root for something positive. And
I mean, go ahead, Zim.
The last thing I want to add on is it feels like for every good move Ryan Poles makes for our Chicago Bears, Chris Getz has to take us White Sox fans back down to earth.
It's like that Thanos meme with little Gamora.
Yeah. What did it cost?
The Chicago Bears are good. What did it cost? The Chicago White Sox.
Yeah.
Honestly, you could even say Chicago baseball
and the Bulls
at this point in time.
Yeah, just all Chicago sports, basically.
Honestly.
To get the Bears back to where they need to be. Guys, I have a stat for you. Everybody loves a stat.
Yes, I love it.
So as Mr. Mandel pointed out in the chat, they're on a 14-game losing streak. It is a franchise record set by, the 2024 White Sox earlier this season. The previous record was 13 going into the season. They have now done it twice. If this score holds, it will be a franchise record 15 straight losses.
Excellent.
If you remove both 14-game losing streaks from the 2024 White Sox, they are 27-53. That 338 winning percentage would still be dead last in all of baseball.
It's so bad.
Impressively awful.
When I saw that stat from Mr. John Greenberg, a unbiased just baseball commenter, I believe he's a Pirates fan, is Mr. Greenberg, who also have had their issues in recent history, but at least they have Skeens.
Skeens better days.
I would pay to put Skeens on this team. I'd watch him every 5th day, all 9 innings guaranteed. Yeah. All 9 innings guaranteed. Because I'd have to finish the game even that he came out of to see if he got the win. That's how a guy like Skeens can revamp someone's overall thoughts on the team. I would feel that way about Crochet, but he's gone after the 3rd inning every game that he pitches, so it's like, what's the point anyway? But yeah, when I saw that, I literally audibly laughed out loud. I could not if they were 27-53, that would be a massive joke. And that kind of is. I bet if you asked a casual who just walks around Chicago knowing that the Sox stink, but they might not know exactly how much they truly stink. They probably would guess that their record is 27-53. That sounds like a reasonable record for a terrible baseball team.
Yeah.
They're about to be 27-82 if this score holds. They're guaranteeing themselves under 500 on July 29th.
Right now, they still have a chance. They can win 55 straight games and finish at 500. Is it a realistic chance? Not even a little bit. But is it a chance? You're telling me there's a chance?
Not with them trading all their best players away and for nothing.
It hasn't happened I don't remember to the 2003 Tigers very much. Every team that pops up with these all-time worst records, whenever you watch the White Sox on national, they show it. the Tigers are the only team in the 21st century that are like in this conversation. All the other ones are like, Royals teams from the 80s or like whatever team from the, mid 1900s. I don't care about those teams. The 03 Tigers, I really don't. I remember baseball in 03. That's the Bartman year. The White Sox were okay. I remember being like 9-10 years old, but I don't remember like being in the weeds of the whole league. I don't remember that Detroit team. There's no way they had 82 losses by August 1st. I just find that very hard to believe. It doesn't sound that's the case. And the fact that that's going to happen here, like they could win out and still be under 500 before August starts, that is just a new level of bad. It's so bad. All three of us predicted they'd be bad when this season started. I think, Joe, you were hovering in the high 60s, optimistic AF. Is that correct? Were you in the high 60s?
I think I was 60s? At 58. I think.
Oh, you were in the high 50s. Okay, maybe you were more pessimistic than I thought. I remember just leaving that episode feeling extremely pessimistic, and here we are. They're even worse than any of us could have imagined.
Yeah. Yep, and it gets worse by the day, folks. We got rid of our most consistent pitcher. We got rid of our most consistent bat, and we got rid of a bullpen arm that didn't really do much for us this year. But let's look at the details of the trade. It's official. This is from the White Sox a little while ago. In the deal, the White Sox receive Miguel Vargas, Alexander Albertus, Joral Perez, and then a player to be named later, and keyword or, cash considerations from the LA Dodgers. The Cardinals receive White Sox starting pitcher Eric Fetty and Tommy Pham, who's been on a tear for the team, pretty much the most consistent offensive bat. The Cardinals will also receive a player to be named later or cash considerations from the Dodgers, and then cash considerations from our White Sox. The Dodgers receive Tommy Edman, our friend Michael Kopech, and Oliver Gonzalez. I have a hard time looking at this, guys, and saying, like, man, we gave 3 major league quality pieces of talent and didn't get a whole lot in return. I will say, Vargas is highly regarded. Albertus is a really good young player, but very young. And Perez is pretty solid. I mean, it is nice that they're all position players. But I don't know. What else do you guys take away from this? And I'll get your quick reactions. We'll make it quick, and then we're going to play Chris Getz's comments on the trade after that.
Okay, so before we hear what Getz has to say, I want to give some positivity to the situation, right? Because I do think it's important to frame this correctly. Tommy Pham and Eric Fetty are 2 guys they picked up off the street.
Yep.
You literally picked these guys up that anybody could have had, and you turn them into 2 19-year-old prospects. That's actually kind of a win.
Yes.
Right? These are very high ceiling, low floor kind of prospects is the problem. These are Fernando Tatis Jr. all over again. The thing is, now they're in your system. And if either of these guys turned out to be Tatis Jr., you get to point at these guys and say, you traded for what and gave us that guy? That's the dumbest trade I've ever heard. So it could turn around. It's not the worst trade I've ever heard of, especially when you consider Beck X, Michael Kopech is not on the White Sox anymore. We're talking about that trade right now, actually.
He's been traded to the Dodgers.
So anyway, what we get in return, right? So Kopech is a guy who clearly wasn't going to revitalize himself here with the White Sox, along with 2 guys you picked up off the street that you get back. A major league contributor who, by the way, right now, would be a team leader in multiple offensive and defensive statistics for the White Sox right now.
Yeah.
This guy immediately joins your team and is better than almost everybody else on the roster. And the 2 kids you picked up, like I said, are very low floor, high ceiling type prospects where you just hope that in the end, one of them turns out to be decent enough for you to say, okay, we actually got something out of this trade.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what happens. That's like the one positive outlook I have on this trade. It's the only way I can frame it in my mind that prevents me from wanting to throw a brick through Chris Getz's windshield right now.
And although points out in the chat, allegedly Jerry is ready to sell the Sox. shocking, given the moves that were just made. Very shocking indeed. He won't sell the Bulls because his son's running the team. Well, yeah, the Bulls. Yeah. Wow. Whew. It certainly looks like a move that was made by an owner that's ready to sell his team and have his GM do whatever he can do to get fired and start fresh next year. But
yeah, I mean, I think it's something worth diving into a little later after we get through all of our trade talks and everything.
Mm-hmm. Vinny, initial vibes before we dive into Chris Getz's amazing comments.
It's funny because I vividly remember doing an episode of Crosstown Crosstalk with Mr. Joey Parisi very early in our Crosstown Crosstalk days. Aldo Gandia might remember this because he was certainly producing the show that day when we had our friend Pitching Ninja on. It was the first of 2 times that he came on. And to prep for that show, we had named our 3 favorite pitchers in the MLB at that point in time. And my 3 were Shohei Ohtani, Tyler Glasnow, and Michael Kopech. Los Angeles Angels, Shohei Ohtani, Tampa Bay Rays, Tyler Glasnow, and Chicago White Sox, Michael Kopech. All 3 of them now play for the Los Angeles Dodgers. So as much as I despise the Dodgers, for being that big bad empire, part of me is oh, the Dodgers.
I don't know, man.
It's like that meme of the guy staring at the girl that's not his wife. That's the Dodgers right now.
That would make me hate them more.
Well,
yeah,
quickly,
and it does in a way. It does. They took all my favorite pitchers.
Yeah.
And one of them is the superstar. That's a 2-way player. But as far as the trade, real quick thoughts. Miguel Vargas, he was a top 40 prospect last year. And
real quick, Vin, this is the bullpen at the White Sox game today where all the pitchers are taking a beer drink for Mr. Kopech.
Yeah, that's sad because he probably is a big part of it. He's been in the bullpen with this team for a couple years now. He was part of the rebuild. He was one of the main headlines, right? It was they got Kopech, in the Chris Sale trade. Now you have Moncada left from that.
Wasn't he the reason that Ethan Katz wound up on the team too?
Giolito.
Okay, I knew it was
Giolito. Giolito was his
high school
player in
coach.
high school.
Yeah.
But he came. There were immediate results with Ethan Katz working with Kopech in 2021. He was great out of the bullpen that year. I don't really know what happened, but injuries and inconsistencies. But I like Miguel Vargas. We'll see how the other 2 pan out. I agree with Zim on Fede and Pham. Fede was in Korea last year, and to his credit, he revived his career. How often do you see a guy struggle in MLB, go play overseas in one of those leagues, knowing that all they have to do, they're not worried about winning the World Series. They're not worried about making a dime because they're handsomely paid in the KBO, especially former MLB players. Fede's set for life just based on his contract. He could play for peanuts in the MLB the rest of the way because of all the money that he probably made in Korea. But it's a situation. He revived his career. He got traded. The White Sox got something out of taking that risk. Okay, good. And same thing with Pham. Kopech, that sucks.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna, get all mushy. That sucks. When I saw that today, I was like,
well,
"This."
Vinny
I have 2 Michael Kopech jerseys.
Well, Vinny and I were both at his first start.
His MLB debut.
Game of Thrones night.
A Game of Thrones night. It was also Chicago Blackhawks night. I remember Alex DeBrincat threw out the first pitch. He plays for Detroit now. Yay, Chicago sports. That. I was all in on Kopech. When he was with Boston, he put out that video of him clocking a wiffle ball at 100 miles an hour. You know how hard it is to throw a wiffle ball that hard? It was just, I loved him when he was with, and then the White Sox got Kopech? What? And I was ride or die. I was ride or die with Kopech, and now he's with Los Angeles. I hope he goes to that pitching factory and becomes Mariano Rivera. I'll be rooting for him specifically, and Ohtani and Glasnow, but I'm not going to talk about that.
Minor commentary: the Sale trade is absolutely abysmal now when you look at it on paper.
The Chris Sale trade, in hindsight, is the worst trade in White Sox history, and I was pissed the day it happened. but I was over the moon happy the next day because like
Boston
I let it
won a World Series because of it. So
literally within 2 years too.
Hey, the White Sox got to talk about a World Series because of it. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
He's having a career year right now too. I don't know about a career year, but he's in the conversation for the Cy Young. It's not out of the question that he wins it. Now, if Skeens keeps doing what he's doing, he's going to win Rookie of the Year and the Cy Young all at once. But like Chris Sale's very much in the mix amongst a couple other guys, and he's late in his career. Imagine they could have rebuilt without trading Sale in hindsight because he'd still be with them on a good team right now. He would have been there in 21. And the only thing they'd be missing in 21 if they never traded Sale was Moncada and Kopech. What did they ultimately do? I know Kopech was pretty good. Moncada was okay at first, but like give me Chris Sale in his prime for all those years, and they probably are a much better team now and then.
Yep, I agree.
It's bad.
It all boils down to jerseys, man. Like that's the clownery that is the White Sox. Is like if you just don't wear certain jerseys, this isn't even a conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If your player comes to you and says, I don't want to do this, and you say, okay, it was that easy.
Well, the funny thing is the home team starting pitcher has a lot of say in the jerseys that they wear. Now, there are some nights where you can't escape. If you're a starting pitcher on the White Sox on a Monday and your day's Monday, you're wearing the stinking Southside jersey, and there's not much you could do about it.
Yeah, but I mean, he does have some control.
It could have been a different weekend.
Up a jersey.
It could have been a different weekend that they wore that.
That's it. It could have been, you know what? My shoulder just ain't quite right. I think I need to skip a start.
Yeah.
It could have been a phantom IL stint.
That's it.
He misses one.
You could have worked with it. You could have figured it out one way or another on either the player side or the organizational side. And they just failed so badly that now we're having to talk about trading Michael Kopech for peanuts.
And if you remember, the 2016 White Sox weren't complete dog shit.
No, not at all.
They were
teams
they were bad. They were 78 and 84.
Yeah, but because you had somebody like Chris Sale on the team, you knew you were getting a win once a week.
Yep. And Jose Quintana had a higher WAR. Look at that. Jose Quintana was nails in 2016.
Oh, he was. Quintana, that's the whole reason they got Luis Robert is because of that campaign right there.
Yep. With a couple moves, a couple shrewd moves, this team could have been a playoff team.
Eloy Jimenez, that's what I meant. Sorry.
Let's 78 and 84. Let's say Jose Abreu continues to progress. You still probably sign Robert because
probably
he was an international free agent that was drawn to the White Sox because of the whole Minnie Minoso thing anyway. That had nothing to do with. You still probably sign Robert. Tim Anderson turned into what he was because he wasn't. He was only a 2.4 WAR player. I mean, that's pretty good, but not
anymore.
He probably gets better. Rodon was on that team.
Rodon was on that team. Who's the closer on that team? Was that the Colomé years?
Yes. Colomé did 18.
Did 19? They have Robertson though for a large portion of that year?
Oh, they did.
That was
David Robertson. Yeah, that's who it is. Taylor.
And he was good those years though. Like they could have legitimately competed those years.
Yeah, and you add on just a little more development from Abreu. Maybe Robert comes in. A little more development from Anderson. That's hindsight. We all loved the rebuild at the time. We were all in on it. I don't believe anybody. The only person I believe is Mike North. I kind of oddly believe.
Yeah, but he's a Cubs fan, so
let me clean the slate for a second. We're gonna listen to Chris Getz's comments. On the trade. Courtesy of Darryl Van Schouwen from White Sox Twitter and covers the team, so you can definitely
Chicago Sun-Times.
Thank you. I meant this. I'm looking at it right here. I couldn't spit it out of my mouth. Thank you, Vinny.
You're welcome.
But let's take a look at Chris Getz's comments on this fantastic trade.
We obviously, feel really good about the trade, the three-way trade, which sometimes it's easier said than done to get a three-way trade to the finish line because you've got so many different variables, moving parts. working through that process, and we had been at it for close to a week to 10 days, at least talking different concepts. And Eric, Tommy, Michael, and going back to the winter meetings when we signed Eric Fetty and having that conversation and explaining to everyone why we were signing Eric Fetty, even though he had a fantastic year in the KBO, and what we saw in him, and I'm really proud of what he was able to accomplish on his journey back to the big leagues. And in talking to Eric, he was very thankful to be able to get back to the big leagues, establish himself as a top of the rotation type arm in a short period of time. And with the current state of our organization, where we were in the off season to where we are now, with the idea of identifying players like Eric, and be able to more or less drive the value up of a player to be able to bring in prospect capital, in which we were able to do.
Wow. So, why didn't you get more for him then, Chris?
I have a theory. I was all in on this too. This is where I admit I'm a dummy. I was wrong. I think the 2015 Royals, the 2016 Cubs, and the 2017/21/22/ whatever they played a trick on everyone. They made it seem like if you tore down your team to nothing and you build it back up through the draft, international free agency, some shrewd trades for prospects, you're guaranteed to win the World Series. Because there were back-to-back-to-back World Series champions of teams that did that. The Royals, the Cubs, and the Astros. They might be, looking back, like the anomaly, like the Texas Rangers very much bought their World Series. There were a couple developments that were nice for them, but for the most part, they got Eovaldi and Semien and Seager and all these guys who helped them reach that pinnacle. You think of the team like the Philadelphia Phillies. They got Bryce Harper in free agency. They gave him $300 million. Trey Turner, $300 million. Wheeler. I think they developed Aaron Nola. But every team develops drafts guys that, whatever, first rounders that turn into. I'm not saying don't do that at all. But to solely rely on it, I'm starting to wonder if that's going to be the downfall of the Baltimore Orioles. Because I said a month ago that I would pick them against any team in a 7-game series. At that point, I no longer feel that way. There are a couple teams, I think.
You know why they won't? They won't. Their reluctancy to deal prospects is hindering their major league purpose.
Yep. And they won't give a guy $300 million to solidify the middle of their lineup.
Make a deal. If you want Garrett Crochet, make a deal for Garrett Crochet. You want a top-tier pitcher, make a deal. Last year, you could have had Dylan Cease. If they had Dylan Cease last year, the Orioles might have gone further in the playoffs.
They're getting tricked the way the White Sox got tricked because Giolito was good. He had that one weird 18 year, but he was good, 19 and on. Moncada was good the 1 year, 19. Reynaldo Lopez had a good year. Kopech was fine early. Robert was great early, especially that 2020 year, the COVID year. They all looked like they were going to be stars. So the White Sox were like, why would we spend all this money? We're drafting and developing all these guys. Andrew Vaughn was a Rookie of the Year candidate in 2021. He hasn't been shit since. The Orioles are kind of experiencing that. All of their guys have hit the ground running in the MLB. Gunnar Henderson is awesome. Adley Rutschman is awesome. They have plenty of players. They have a couple. They expect. So because of that, they think every prospect is going to be that. That's not the case. That is just not every prospect was that for the White Sox. Zach Collins was a flop.
Man.
Freaking Nick Madrigal turned out to be a flop. He got rid of him to go to the Cubs, but Craig Kimbrell was trash for the White Sox too, so that doesn't even really get to count. There are a couple guys. Oscar Colas has been terrible. Nothing became of Yoelqui Cespedes. All these guys that were supposed to be this high-end talent that just
Fletcher,
really
but maybe that's a little early. The jury's out on Fletcher still, but
yeah, the jury's out on Fletcher. We'll see. Pitchers are different. What I was getting to with my main point about the 3 World Series teams that all built it from scratch. teams might be smart to look at the long game with players they have already. And it's not necessarily about trading every single person away again. It's more like they can keep Fetty, and he could be like, look at what would have happened if they kept Chris Sale. I'm not saying Eric Fetty's Chris Sale. He's not even close, not even the same stratosphere. If Chris Sale has a strong finish, he might make it to the Hall of Fame. Like, but you can have a rotation in the future that includes Fetty, Drew Thorpe if he continues to pitch well. I know he had one bad last start, but before that it was
Bad
all
timing
great.
too.
It was terrible timing because Dylan Cease had a freaking perfect game or no hitter one day later or whatever.
The day before.
He's awesome though, Thorpe. I think he's good. We like Noah Schultz, but we'll see. But you can
Breaking
have
news.
a good team.
The Sox tied the game. Breaking news. Sorry, continue, Vin.
Yeah. I think with pitching especially, you can build around pitching. You can make a mediocre team look like a playoff team if you can pitch. And then at the trade deadline, like you could be the Seattle Mariners. Their pitching is awesome. They can't hit a ball to save their life. But maybe they'll trade
Randy
for Luis
Rosarina
Robert
is going to change.
They traded for a Rosarina who's I don't know, he's kind of boomer bust. Right? He's awesome.
Justin Turner, too.
Yeah,
So
they got
is
Justin
Robert.
Turner. Yeah, Robert is very boomer bust, especially this year, too. Like, you can build around – you could get offense. That kind of applies in every sport. Really, except for football. I think if you're missing a quarterback, you're screwed. But, like, outside of football, if you can kind of place offense here and there, but if you can defend – if you're in hockey and you're really good at defending, your goalie's awesome, all 6 of your defensemen are cohesive and they work together, you can find scoring at the trade deadline. Goal-scoring wingers are a dime a dozen. But it's those teams that, like, clamp down. And, like, I feel that way about baseball, too, with pitching, and they send it all away. You could make an elite starting rotation right now out of pitchers the White Sox traded away. You could choose any of Sale.
The Braves nearly have.
Literally, they have Reynaldo Lopez and Chris Sale.
And they might get another one.
Yeah, they're talking
Yeah,
about
they
going
might
to
give
Crochet.
freaking Crochet. Lucas Giolito's injured right now, but he's a quality major league arm. He's on the Red Sox. Lance Lynn giving Cardinals quality innings. Yep. Which I know he's an older guy. It's a little bit different with him, but like you get my point. There are guys spread across. Even where's Jose Quintana right now? What's he doing? Like,
I have no idea.
He had a mediocre run with the Cubs, but like for the most part, he's been an okay MLB pitcher over his years.
Rodon's
I don't know.
Playing real well for the Yankees.
Yeah, Rodon. Oh, don't even get me started on Rodon. Hey, Jose Quintana pitching for the Mets
He's
right
on the
now.
Mets.
He's got a 4.02 ERA with a 1.5 WAR. He's not much of a strikeout artist anyway, but he's made 20 starts. That's probably on pace for 32 if I had to guess. He's on this Mets team that's competing. Like, I think sometimes people think every player on the team has to be a 5 WAR guy in order to be good. That's just not how this game works.
Kopech's going to go to the Dodgers and going to rake. So, yeah.
Right. The White Sox are beginning to feel like the Oakland A's, where they just like they developed the talent for the rest of the league. You know, in the 90s, it felt like guys would come up with Oakland, and then the team never wanted to pay anybody, so they go sign with the Cubs or the Cardinals or the Yankees or whoever, and then they go have like these Hall of Fame careers. Giambi, McGuire, more, but
that's going to happen with Crochet if they deal him. He's going to be like
and
the face
that's
of
just
baseball.
it. Like these guys, the White Sox are just developing for the rest of the league. Granted, it's pitchers more so than field players. It feels like they just don't know how to evaluate fielding talent.
So we talked about the trade that already happened. We still have a little less than 24 hours. It's tomorrow. I think it's 4:00 Eastern. Vin, is that right?
Mm-hmm. You are.
So correct. Yeah, we have until tomorrow. We still got Garrett Crochet, who's been popping up in trade rumors. You got Luis Robert, and we have to have this conversation because Chris Getz made some very controversial comments today on Garrett Crochet.
Yeah.
Of course, you guys know that Crochet wants to get extended. Vinny, I don't know if you want to explain that situation a little bit better before I play the clip about what what Garrett Crochet is asking for.
Yeah, and before I do that, I just want to make one correction. It is 5 p.m. tomorrow.
Okay.
5
sorry.
p.m.
5 p.m.
Me
East.
too. It sounded right to me too. But yeah, it's 5 p.m. Central Time tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern.
Oh, 6 p.m.
Um,
East. Got it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's late.
Yeah, it's late. And this is from MLB, so if they're wrong, go after them. The White Sox obviously have had Garrett Crochet in trade rumors for a handful of weeks now.
Yeah.
He was named to be the opening day starter, right? Like nobody saw that coming. Even though it really kind of was just right there in our face that he was going to be the opening day starter,
Right.
because like, who the hell else would it have been?
Feel a little dumb that we didn't see that.
Yeah, 100%. I do too. Hindsight really was like, you idiot. more than it usually is, because hindsight bites me in the face all the time. But Crochet decided to say last week at some point that, and it's obviously all through his agent, players never really have to say it themselves, but
Of course.
it's him, that if the White Sox trade him, that's fine, but he's prepping the rest of the season as if he's starting and pitching to his max every game in the regular season. But if you want me to pitch in the playoffs, I need a contract extension. And the reason Crochet is doing that on his side of things is to make sure that he can pitch and develop well. And if a team wants to have him in the playoffs, where there's obviously a risk of injury a year after Tommy John making more than 32 starts, you're going to want to be paid for it, because if he goes on the shelf again, there's a good chance that he probably doesn't come back the same and have the opportunity to make that money again. Just look at how quickly Michael Kopech went from being a guy that looked like he'd make $300 million in his career to a guy that probably won't even top $50 million in his career. So it's a huge monetary risk to push yourself in a season like this if you're Crochet coming off of Tommy a year ago. So I get it from that point of view. I really do. And now a couple teams have backed out. It's making him, I don't even know if I want to say it's making him less likely to be traded, because if I were a team that was just FU rich, I would take that risk. I see no reason that a team like the Braves can't try and make it work. Especially if Reynaldo Lopez is out for a little while. I know he's not going to need Tommy John because his MRI was negative, but like, you never know if that rears its ugly head again. You could probably bet your bottom dollar that Reynaldo Lopez is going to have Tommy John surgery within the next 2 years.
Absolutely.
If I were him, I'd just get it freaking out of the way right now and have a chance to pitch for the Braves in the postseason next year.
Yeah.
That's what I would do personally, because I don't think the Braves are good enough this year. Now, if they get Robert, that's a different story. But if they get Robert and then you add Acuna back next year, then you're really good. So, like,
that's a team.
I'm Lopez.
Yeah.
I'm really thinking twice about this.
Mhm.
But I'm not Lopez. I'm Vinny doing a podcast talking about it instead. But we'll see if it impacts their ability to trade him. But yeah, he wants a contract extension if he's going to pitch in the playoffs.
So Chris Getz came out and talked for over 2 minutes about the situation in some eye-opening comments. Let's all take a listen.
I think about, the alternate site, and, he made his major league debut, so quickly without any minor league games. And I remember driving over here. He had never been to a major league park, and being with him and kind of going through that experience with him, getting acclimated to the major leagues, and going through his injuries, and his decision along with mine to go into this year preparing to be a starter and giving him a chance to do that. I'm really, I continue to feel that we have really open and honest relationship, and certainly I believe in Garrett, and he goes out, whether I believe in him or not doesn't matter, because he believes in himself as a pitcher. The communication had been very strong between Garrett and I, and his agency, and I was a little surprised and taken back by how they went about it, considering that I had a conversation with his agent the night before. I didn't, that's not exactly the tactic that I would have taken, even being a former player, quite honestly, just because the dialogue had been so honest and real and careful and mindful of his career, because I've known him since we got him. So I was a little surprised by it. I was. I think most people, most fans, and even players, without knowing everything, it makes sense. I think we understand, why a stance would be taken like that. Now, how you go about expressing that is what was, a bit hurtful, quite honestly, considering I felt like we could have handled it a little bit differently, and still, I think everyone accomplished what they wanted to accomplish. But Garrett's a very talented arm, and he's just getting his starting career going.
Wow. As the former player who wasn't a pitcher is going to comment on the situation.
You want me to go?
Yeah, go.
What a freaking clown. I mean, Chris Getz, the former player, he hit 250 in his career with an on-base percentage of 309, a slugging percentage of 307 for an on-base plus slugging of 616. He had a 1.4 career WAR. Garrett Crochet has a higher WAR this season than Chris Getz did in his entire MLB career that spanned, let's check, a total of 7 years. He was a negative WAR player for most of them. He had enough WAR in 1 year to overcome being a negative WAR player in his entire career. He mostly played for the stinky White Sox and the stinky Royals. Right when he leaves town, they go on and make it to the World Series the following year and then win it the next year. Mostly Chris Getz as a player was terrible. He had no leverage in any situation as a player because of his performance on the field being one of the biggest flops in MLB history. And when I say one of the biggest flops in MLB history, I grossly mean it. He was drafted, amateur draft, high, not like a incredibly high pick, but a fourth round pick in the amateur draft is pretty high for baseball. Mm-hmm. And he made his debut at 24 years old. He was well seasoned, and he was out of the league by the time he turned 30. So this is not at all the same situation. If Chris Getz had any leverage as a player, he probably would have used it as any human being looking out for themselves and their family, especially a pitcher, where any pitch, there's a finite number of bullets in this thing. They're not forever. You could swing a bat forever. You might not be able to do it well forever, but you could get out there if a team's willing to give you a chance. A pitcher, not really. Your arm's dead after a certain point. And that can very well happen, especially when you throw 100 like Garrett Crochet and have had Tommy John already. It is not the same situation. The fact that he even compared his time as a player to what Garrett Crochet is doing this year is a complete and utter joke. The fact that he doesn't go out there and make it expressly clear that he understands why Garrett Crochet is saying what he's saying about his contract situation, based on the fact that he is on a 27-81 baseball team, and why the hell would anybody want to do a favor for a team that does that to you? Okay, you draft him in the first round, you force him into the league in the COVID year because you were too stupid to, have the future of the kid in mind. And, we all liked it at the time because it was fun, it was entertaining. But like in hindsight, here we go with hindsight again, that was a terrible idea. So Chris Getz just sounds completely tone deaf. He's mostly been a bad evaluator of talent for a long time. So it's not like any of us even trust Garrett Crochet to get a big return for him anyway. In fact, the Houston Astros just made a trade, and they acquired Yusei Kikuchi from the Toronto Blue Jays, and you won't believe the freaking haul that this Blue Jays team got back for Kikuchi, who checks notes has a 0.2 wins above replacement next to Eric Feedy's 4.6 wins above replacement. So Chris Getz is just a complete moron from top to bottom. He has no business running the Chicago White Sox, let alone, I wouldn't even really probably let him be the head director of athletic director at my college. Like if I were Alabama or, an SCT team that's good at college baseball, I'd tell him to take a hike, because he just has no clue what he's doing. He's tone deaf when he speaks, and there was a lot of ass coming out of his mouth when talking about the Garrett Crochet situation.
A lot of ass coming out of his mouth. And frankly, we talked about it earlier. Aldo talked about Jerry's ready to sell the team. Are they trying? They're going to try to make Chris Getz the scapegoat. They're going to fire him. Jerry's going to sell the team. They're going to bring on somebody with a whole new, fresh slate. I just don't know if there's any way. And Zim, I'll let you comment on this. Is there any way that they can bring in a person that wants to manage this team, a quality manager? Is there anyone that wants this job?
Absolutely. If Jerry sells the team, I mean, and PZ mentioned this right at the top of the show. If Jerry doesn't sell, what the hell's the solution? And he's dead on with that assessment. What do you do? And so what Chris Getz has done is he has established a very deep farm system here, right? The top 15 prospects for this squad are entirely different from where they were a year ago. And I mean, I don't think any of those guys were on the squad 2 or 3 years ago, right? So the top prospects for this club are surprisingly promising. That doesn't include guys that have already made the show, like Crochet, like Thorpe, like Nastrini. You know, we're looking at true untapped potential with these guys in the minors. And again, it's also not including guys that you could potentially quote unquote fix. I'm talking the power hitting first baseman you've got there, the defensive stud you've got behind the plate, the guy in center field who looks like MLB's version of an all-pro player. You know, he looks like an all MLB team guy when he's on his game. It's just a matter of finding a way to keep his head in the game long enough.
He needs a manager and a coaching staff that can handle him.
There are so many pieces here that if you get a salesman in the room with somebody who has enough desire, you can get a GM in there. You can get somebody in there that really wants to make it happen. And that GM can then find a manager that looks at it and says, yeah, I can work with this. You know, it's not unreasonable. It's not unrealistic. I think we're just so far down in the doldrums of all of this that like we're having trouble seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And when you look at it, this is still a major league ball club. They might be one of the worst ones of all time, but these guys are all playing in the pros for a reason. They might be the 23rd guy on any other team's roster, but they would still be there. You know, sure. So there's something to say about that. It's hard to look at any of these guys and say that is not a major league ball player. If I'm being completely honest, now that they've gotten rid of some of these guys is what I'm saying. You know, there were a few weeks there where there were a couple guys on this squad where it's like, I don't know what you're doing here. I don't know why you have a contract. You should not be getting paid more to play baseball than I do. So you kind of looked at that, but I mean, they've kind of righted that situation now, right? It almost feels like they're setting it up for Pedro to get fired if you're looking at it from that perspective. But I don't just mean in the sense of like, he's so bad, you have to fire him. I mean it in the sense of like, they're trying to make the job become appealing to a new hire. They're trying to show people, you know, hey, this is what we have. This is what's here. There's stuff to work with, you know. It's going to take time. It's going to take effort. The next guy they hire as manager probably won't be the guy to take them back to the playoffs or the World Series. It might be the guy after that, to be completely realistic here. We might be on another GM at that point too, if Chris Getz continues to flounder the way that he did. You know, I praised him for the trade earlier, but all of that praise gets completely cut off when you realize it's a 3-for-3 trade in a 3-team deal. That's unacceptable. No matter who you are, no matter what level you're playing at, if you're in a 3-team deal and you're giving up 3 players and you're the one initiating that, you know, you're the one who's got the guys that you're the seller. If you're the seller in a 3-team trade, you should be getting back a whole lot more than you're giving up. And Chris Getz did a really bad job of that. I think he got played. I think he, you know, pushed his chips to the center too soon. I think he got caught with his pants down in front of people way more experienced than him, and he had to save face at the end of the day and just take the trade that was on the table.
And they worked on it for over a week.
Yeah, how do you work on that trade for over a week? How do you work on that trade for over a week?
Like the player to be named later, let's be honest, that's going to be cash.
That's going to be cash considerations. I saw the best jersey of all time the other day. It was somebody in a White Sox jersey that said cash considerations on the back. I was like, oh my God, every White Sox player or every White Sox fan needs that. That is our favorite player. That is the franchise savior right there.
I'm going to see if I could get Jay Kuda to find me a player to be named later that turned into a star. I want to know if someone's got to be out there. Someone's got to be a player to be named later that went to that new team later. That became like you don't even have to be star. Give me a solid MLB contributor. Give me an Adam Eaton. Give me something like a good player.
You don't even need to be an Adam Eaton. I'm like Jeff Blum. I would even consider like a successful guy. You 100%.
Know, Tyler Saladino.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, I agree. I'm gonna work on that. Did you guys hear about this news regarding one of the prospects they acquired? Actually.
No.
I don't know.
Newly acquired prospect Alexander Albertus won't play again this season. Per the White Sox, he has a stress reaction in his left tibia. The injury is not considered to be serious, is expected to heal with rest, and it is anticipated that he will be ready for spring training.
That's what Kevin White had.
That's exciting.
That's what literally ended Kevin White's career.
The kid is a stud.
He is. He's the most promising of the three players they acquired, in my opinion.
So I just don't. You got nothing from the Cardinals. I don't understand how the Cardinals get nothing.
I've been telling
Tommy
everybody,
Pham, and you get
Fetty. And you give what's his face to the Dodgers, so you don't need anymore.
The Cardinals got two really good players just for like being on the phone while they made the transaction. Like,
literally, they were in the right place at the right. Oh, St. Louis, come on over.
It felt like the Dodgers and the White Sox were working on a trade, and then St. Louis got on the phone and was like, "Hey, we want these guys," and Getz forgot to get anything back. He was like, yeah, and you guys get those. I really want these guys, and then
a player to be named later.
We're good, right? Like we're good on this trade, and the Cardinals are over there like, don't notice. You know, like
if it doesn't
when you're sitting on eBay and you get like that really really low, you know, it had no business selling that low, and you're like, I don't know who was asleep at the wheel tonight, but somebody's losing their job over this, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You get your Mike Trout rookie card for $6 or something like that, and you're just like, holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. I hope they meet in the NLCS. If it doesn't come at the expense of the Braves, I would root for it.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great?
Dodgers and the Cardinals. Fetty versus Kopech. I don't know, it wouldn't be Kopech, but like whatever. Fetty and Kopech pitch in the same game or something, and Pham hits a walk-off home run or something funny, and the White Sox finish the season 39 and 126 or whatever that would be.
You know, the player to be named later, it could be Jordan Walker. You know, we don't know for sure, so you know, just cross your fingers and hope. That's all I gotta say.
I don't understand. I really don't.
No, it's like that's a really frustrating part of it. It's, you know, for all the positive things I just spun for trying to hire a new manager, you know, the guy's going to look at stuff like that, whoever it is, he's going to look at it and what's to stop him from walking into the room and saying, prove to me you're not an idiot.
What better segue, Zim? You brought that up. There's rumors that started coming out today that the Sox are interested in AJ Pierzynski as their next manager.
Yeah.
So Zim, I'll let you take this one first.
He is absolutely unqualified. He has
Fits the bill with this team, though.
He has no experience. There is no other team in the league that would hire him for that position. And yet I am 100% on board with it. Even though we just did this with Pedro, I don't know. I've always thought Pierzynski would make a good manager. He gives me Grandpa Rossi vibes. I tell you what, if he bleaches his hair again, he can do whatever he wants in the city of Chicago, as far as I'm concerned. So
he could already.
So, I mean, no, I honestly, like, a lot of former catchers turn out to be pretty good MLB managers. You know, I mean, historically speaking, I'm not even just talking recency bias. You know, look at one of the best major league managers of all time in Yogi Berra. He was a catcher, catchers just, they understand the game in a different way. I'm not trying to, okay. I know I talk a lot about, I'm a former catcher. I'm not trying to toot my own horn here. All I'm saying is that in order to play catcher, you have to understand the game from a different side than anybody else on the field. You have to understand the mentality of the pitcher and the hitter at any given moment, in any given situation. You have to know where every single player on the field should be. Before they kept those little cards in their back pockets that told you where to line up for each guy. The catcher was the guy responsible for giving you signals on how to line up. And that was Przinsky's day, so he's familiar with how to play different situations. He's familiar with the strategy involved in the nuances of the game. He understands how to talk to umpires, because who knows how to talk better to an umpire than the guy who sits next to him for 3 hours a day. Like you learn these different intricacies of the game sitting behind the plate that you don't learn in other places on the field. And then you see them all unfold in front of you as well. And that's the other part of it, is not just being prepared for them, but then watching them. So you can see, like, this is where it went wrong on this play. When a guy gets an inside the park home run that clearly should have been cut off at a double or something like that. When a guy gets into a rundown situation and you pick up on something where you say, hey, he did this, so next time if we throw it there, he'll be stuck at second or whatever. You see the game in an entirely different way that it's really hard to explain to somebody who hasn't played the position, because you're a spectator that's also part of the game all in one. And anything that you don't catch, anything that you don't understand, anything that you fail to pick up on, it doesn't, or it's win or lose situations. These things that you could easily miss. So yeah, as a catcher, that's why I really like him in that position. He was a really smart catcher at that. He was an all-star level catcher. He was a power hitting catcher in an era where guys like Mike Piazza existed, where Pudge Rodriguez existed. So yeah, I'm all for it. I always liked him as a player. I've always liked him as an analyst. I think that he would be a welcome change from somebody as lackadaisical and frankly idiotic as Pedro Grifol. I don't think we would get a single soundbite from him that was anything close to the shit that we get from Grifol.
I agree with that.
He would point blank tell it like it is, instead of saying, Pedro, the guys really, struggled out there. Well, I think we have a World Series ball club regardless, and we're going to hit the cages hard tomorrow and make up for it. And I think anybody 1 through 9 can hit a home run at any given moment. No, AJ's going to get on the microphone and say, yeah, that was shit today, and it's probably going to be shit tomorrow unless we figure some shit out real quick.
Yeah. Great initial reaction. I'm sure Vinny's going to have a similar, not a similar, but an interesting take on it all. And Vin, before we get to that, 1, give me your take on this report, and 2, Skip Schumacher or AJ Przinsky. The floor is yours.
I would probably go AJ because I like Zim's take about catchers. And I just think it'd be more fun. Like, if you're going to stink, be fun. AJ would give good quotes. I'd have plenty of story ideas to write. Like, it all around would be better for me if AJ Przinsky became. There are pros and cons, right? He's not experienced. He never even coached. He's broadcasted. He's caught, which is like a on the field coach, as Zim alluded to. But yeah, I would go with him. I actually was more interested in giving you guys some nuggets I found while you were having that conversation.
Dude, I love Dino Nuggies. Hit me with them.
Okay, we were talking about notable player to be named later. I didn't need no Jay Kudo. Who needs Jay Kudo when you got VP? I really like Jay Kudo's account. I mean, no disrespect.
Oh, it's a great account.
On September 13th, 1996, the Seattle Mariners traded a player to be named later to the Minnesota Twins to complete an earlier transaction for Dave Hollins. That player that became a Minnesota Twin was eventually traded to Boston, where he would become known as Big Papi.
Wow.
David Ortiz is the greatest player and anyone who looks at this list would probably agree that David Ortiz is the greatest player to ever be a player to be named later, even though he made his name with the team that acquired him a second trade. Dave Winfield is the only other Hall of Famer to be a player to be named later in a trade.
Pretty good player to be named later, though.
100%. And there's one or two future Hall of Famers on this list of players who were players to be named later. All of these guys were all-stars at one point or another. Moises Alou. Most people remember
I almost threw his name out there, but I wasn't 100% sure.
A lot of people remember Moises Alou as Mr.
Bartman fan.
Mr. I'm going to freak out because a guy touched a baseball that I probably should have caught regardless.
I think of him pissing on his hands for some reason.
Yeah,
I think of him pissing his pants because of the way his batting stance was with his legs all put together.
Yep. Michael Brantley, who pretty good player, all-star a couple times. Former White Sox 2 times, Gio Gonzalez. Obviously, I mentioned David Ortiz, probably the best player besides David Ortiz on this list. Philadelphia Phillies all-star Trey Turner was a player to be named later in a trade, who he might go to the Hall of Fame. He was my one that was on this list. And White Sox legend, World Series walk-off home run hero Scotty Podge was a player to be named later in a trade.
Love it.
Wasn't it a trade to the White Sox? He was a player to be named later?
Let's see if there are details. Let me see. Oh, in Bill Durham, Kevin Costner's character, Crash Davis, introduces himself to the new manager as, hey, I'm the player to be named later. Let's see how Scott Podsednik became.
Scotty Potts came from the Brewers, so I don't think he was to be named later when he came to the Sox.
Yeah, maybe not. I need baseball reference for this one, though. It doesn't say on.
Yeah, it takes a minute.
It doesn't say on Wikipedia.
Speaking of the Brewers.
God, that's so funny. I almost said Moises Alou, but I wasn't 100% sure.
You would have looked like a genius too, because I couldn't have picked out a player if my life depended on it. But I will say, I'm happy to know this little trivia question now going forward, in case it ever comes up.
Yeah, that's a really good little trivia nugget to have, I think.
For sure. What I was going to say real quick is, speaking of the Brewers, guys, they just acquired Frankie Montas from the Reds in division trade.
Wow.
The Cincinnati's acquiring Joey Whitmer and Jacob Junis from the Brewers.
Junis sounds familiar, but I don't know these players very well.
Yeah, he's a right-hander.
It's not telling me which of these trades he was the player to be named later.
Okay.
But one thing that's interesting is on October 8th, 1995, the Texas Rangers sent Scott Podsednik to the Florida. Oh, no, this is it.
Okay.
This is it. On October 8th, 1995, the Texas Rangers sent Scott Podsednik to the Florida Marlins to complete an earlier deal made on August 8th, 1995. On August 8th, 1995, the Texas Rangers sent a player to be named later for Bobby Witt Sr., Bobby Witt Jr.'s dad, who is on the field playing against the White Sox right now.
That's wild.
Baseball gods. They're real.
Hey, well, I'll give you guys one thing. This is the most White Sox we've talked on the show all year long. So we've got an hour plus.
No. We did a preview show. Where we spent a solid hour and a half, 2 hours.
Outside of that show.
Asterisk.
Yeah, that's an asterisk. But we got one other piece that we got to discuss too. I'm gonna put the tracks on and keep the show chugging along. Luis Robert. This is a guy that was rumored to be a sure thing going to the Phillies. The Braves were interested in him. Now there's reports coming out all over the place saying that he will most likely not be dealt by the deadline. Vinny, are you hearing anything new on that front? And do you think he ends up staying in Chicago?
I'm not hearing anything on Luis Robert Jr. because I'm not sure there's much to hear. Andrew Vaughn just hit one of the farthest home runs I've ever seen him hit.
I told you we got a power hitting first baseman.
Like, that ball went far. It was
If
like
somebody-
halfway up the outfield bleachers, and there was a guy
somebody
that
could develop him.
100%.
He would be the next Paul Konerko.
He's got the tools to be like an above average power hitter. I agree. And I saw a guy with a Kyle Orton jersey. Wait a minute. What number's Caleb wearing?
18.
18.
Oh, then it's a Caleb Williams jersey. Never mind. Should have known that. What a dummy I am. I corrected myself
It's
in my
a
head.
Dante Pettis jersey.
Right when I said it, I was like, wait a minute. That's Caleb Williams, you dummy. But I
it's
wanted
a Robert
to confirm with
Tonyan
you.
jersey.
Wouldn't that be funny?
A Jesse James jersey.
If I were a contending team, I would not trade for Luis Robert Jr.
I agree.
He stinks, right? Like, I'm not giving up all these prospects that the White Sox want for him. He's got a 1.0 WAR on the season, and let's see what the rest of his. I mean,
He's
there's
not
a reason.
He's not reliable, and he's mentally checked out. And
Yes,
why would anybody want that? Like, why
Yeah.
would you want to actively go try to bring in a guy who's mentally checked out on the season, playing? I get he plays for a bad club, but he looks like, I'm making my money either way. What do I care? Why would you want to bring that in? Why would you want to affect your winning culture?
I would bring him in the offseason.
Exactly.
But in
I'd
the
bring him
regular
into
season,
December. Yeah.
he's why you're right. Why would you want to bring that in? Now, this goes to show how talented he is. As dog crap as he's been with his 1.0 wins above replacement, his OPS is still 722, which is respectable. If you had a lineup of 9 guys hitting a 722 OPS, you don't have that one star that everybody looks forward to, but you probably make the playoffs because you have 1 through 9 with a 722 OPS. Robert he's been below average by his standards this season. If I'm a contender, I'm not giving up one of my top 10 prospects and 2 other top 20 prospects for him. There's no shot. There are plenty of other players out there that'll cost less, be better, come in with a better mindset. And we don't know for sure that Luis Robert is only half-assing it because he's on a dog shit team. We'll find that out in the future.
Yeah.
We might see him go to another team that's on pace to win 110 games and still stink. And by stink, I mean lollygag, because he just doesn't have it. He doesn't have it the way that he had it last year. The White Sox were a tad bit better last year, but nothing like crazy sauce. 2 years ago, they were at least an okay team when they went 81 and 81. God, how miserable we all thought that was. That's like the fifth best. That's like the 5th best season the White Sox have had in the 21st century.
I mean, I remember being bummed, but not mad.
I watched every game.
Right.
I think I partially tuned in at minimum to just about every game in 2022.
I don't know the last time I watched a White Sox game.
Yeah, I'm watching them right now like a moron, and they're winning. Congrats. They're going to get their 28th win if they hang on. They probably won't even hang on, though. But yeah, I don't get the difference between Eloy and Robert. Like, why do the White Sox or White Sox fans think that Robert is just worth so much more? I'm not a batting average guy. I think it's a stupid stat, but Eloy's batting average is significantly better than Robert's. His WAR isn't as high because he doesn't play a good center field like Robert does. But I'm not trading. If I'm the Yankees, it's the last guy I want to trade for. You get Jazz Chisholm in there. That guy loves playing. That guy's he's got the vibes for days. They made him shade his beard. Okay, he's still swaggy McSwag face. He's awesome. Everybody loves Jazz Chisholm Jr. Now he's in pinstripes. He had his first home run as a Yankee today. Like, these good teams don't want dog shit mentalities. They want players that want to win, that want to be there. Luis Robert hasn't shown to me that he's one of those guys. There might be a team before 5 p.m. tomorrow that decides that they can get it out of him. And maybe they can. Maybe going to the Baltimore Orioles would revive him. Oh, now I'm in first place. Let's go. Or second place, whatever the Orioles, them and the Yankees are going to have a battle till the end. And the Red Sox might enter that equation too. If they don't get off their funk, they're not going to. But they've been dog crap since the All-Star game. But they were hot going in. What's another good team? The Arizona Diamondbacks, I think, would be a great team to trade for Luis Robert Jr. because their offense is meh, but they were in the World Series last year. They know what it's like to go on a magical run that nobody expects to see. The Mariners are right there in that conversation of a team that could really use a bat like him. So I've rambled on long enough about why I wouldn't trade for Luis Robert Jr., but I sure hope the White Sox do, and I hope they find a way to get something for him because I'm not all that optimistic about his future in these stripes.
There is a chance that both active players that are bobbleheads this year get traded. You get Luis Robert Jr. and then on Star Wars Day they have Garrett Crochet. Or there's an opportunity that they both stay put. So weird times.
That's my prediction.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion they both stay put at this point in time.
Mm-hmm. I hope I'm wrong. Well, I hope I'm wrong on Robert, not Crochet.
I mean, based on the way last year's trade deadline went, I think this might be all Chris Getz has in the tank. I don't think he's a good negotiator. I don't think he's good at his job, period.
He wasn't good at his last job.
Well, that's fair. I don't think
he wasn't good at the job before that either.
That's actually true. Can I tweet that?
Yeah, go ahead.
He was a bad baseball player, a bad baseball head of player development, and a bad GM. At least I think I'm okay at podcasting. I can run my mouth.
Right?
I don't know. Michael Jackson. He's bad. He's bad. He's bad.
I just what redeeming factors does this guy have? He has conned his way. He's like that movie, like Catch Me If You Can. Like he has conned his way into every job he's ever had, and people just buy it because like he's charismatic as hell.
He's handsome.
But he's I don't know. Maybe he is. I don't know. I'm the wrong person to ask about that, I guess.
The spiky blonde hair with the blue eyes. Oh yeah, he got Jerry Reinsdorf going.
Okay. If I'm being honest, white men all look the same to me. I whoosh right over my head. So
fair. Very fair.
You know, like if he is, like, good on him, because that's probably how he's gotten through all of life, is being tall and being pretty. So yeah, I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see how he keeps his job a whole lot longer. He claims that he's got more trades that he's working on and this, that, and the other thing. I don't see it happening. I don't think anybody likes him enough to like sit on the phone with him to do it. Like, you know, these GMs are getting calls nonstop. Hello? Hey, it's Chris Getz from the Sox. Oh, hang on. I got somebody else on the other line. Click. Sorry, Chris. The big boys are talking right now. You go play with your crayons, and we'll be back in like an hour tops. Swear.
Do you ever wonder, like, what if Chris Getz is Billy Bean? And like,
no,
that's
never crossed my mind time.
Moneyball ruined my mind forever. Like, because I always think, like, if I was an A's fan in 2001 and I had a podcast, I would have destroyed this guy. I would have been Art. What's Art's last name? Art
Garfunkel?
No, Art something. He's played by what's his name, who passed away? Philip Seymour Hoffman. Oh my God, Art something. He wanted to play Pena at first base, which I remember watching Pena
and then
as a player in real life. Carlos Pena. I remember watching him play for the A's against the White Sox when we were younger. And he's in this movie all of a sudden. And frickin' Billy Bean wanted Chris Pratt to play so bad, Hatteberg. I forget Hatteberg's first name. And he wouldn't do it. And I know if I was like an A's podcaster in 2001, those didn't exist, but you get my point. I would have hated him. I would have thought he was the biggest dumb of all time. He's the longest active GM in the league, I'm pretty sure now.
Yep,
he's probably going to go with them to Vegas. And if he ever gets some money on his hands, Theo Epstein got the job as Boston's GM. Art Howe, that's exactly who I'm thinking of. Theo Epstein got the job in Boston because after Billy Bean turned them down, Theo Epstein was like, "Oh well, I'll run that model."
Yeah,
I'll do it.
I can do that. Yeah,
but the difference is the Red Sox and the Cubs years later have the resources to build upon this philosophy that Billy Bean developed. And so I do often wonder, like, what if we have Billy Bean and we just don't know it? But then I watch him talk today.
We've got Billy Madison.
And then I go, yeah, we're closer to having Billy Madison than Billy Bean. But damn, I'm going to watch Moneyball now after this game. I need some Carlos Pena and some freaking Jeremy Giambi, RIP. That makes me so sad.
I can't watch Moneyball during baseball season. It just gives me false hope.
Oh, wait, watching it on trade deadline eve, though, would be...
Oh, my God.
That would be like watching the Santa Claus on Christmas Day.
It'd be like watching Draft Day on Draft Day.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, what a movie. Shout out Brad Pitt. Speaking of sexy blonde guys. Jesus. Oh, my God.
That's... Wow. That's it. That's
Sorry, Joe.
No, it's fine.
So our guaranteed take, would you do Brad Pitt? All right, everybody. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
I do have a legitimate guaranteed take if we're at that point in the show, though. All right, guaranteed take. I saw this going around White Sox Twitter today after the trade, and it felt like a knee-jerk reaction, but the longer I thought about it, the more I was like, man, this feels real, though. We're coming up on August 1st. We have just about 2 months left in the season, somewhere between 50 and 60 games left, if I remember right. The White Sox magic number is in the 20s, believe it or not.
Intriguing. Continue.
The over-under on games remaining, on wins remaining, is now at 4.5. Do they lose 130 games this season?
Is it really?
I don't know, but that's what White Sox Twitter was debating.
That can't be a real bettable.
I don't know if it's actually bettable, but like the legitimate thought at this point in time is, will the White Sox lose 130 games this season?
No.
I think it's genuinely realistic, especially if there are more trades that happen over the next 24 hours, 40 or 16 hours,
20.
Whatever it is at this point. Yeah. If we see guys like Luis Robert, like Garrett Crochet traded, what does that mean for the future of this season?
As you're saying this, I don't know how in tune with this you are right now. As you're saying this, the Royals just went back to back and they are now within one run. If they lose this game, I'm taking the under. If they blow a 5-2 lead with one inning left.
The White Sox, if games ended at the 7th inning, the White Sox would be something like 6th in all of baseball.
They've lost a lot of games by one run. I think they lead the league in one-run losses this year.
They lead the league in blown saves. You know what's crazy is if you got rid of all the White Sox blown saves and switched them, they would be a 500 ball club this season.
Yeah, that's crazy.
They've blown 28 saves this season. That's insane. So they're currently 52 games under 500.
Oh,
so
my God.
If you just make those saves, this is an over 500 ball club. Like, how pathetic is that? We should be thanking the Dodgers for giving them anything for Michael Kopech at that, when you consider that fact.
I mean, we should be thankful this isn't the Premier League, because they'd be going to AAA next year. And somebody else would be coming up, whoever wins the AAA championship.
Yeah.
Hey, I tell you what, though, I wouldn't mind seeing...
I would love that.
Seeing the Charlotte Knights in the Major League Baseball and the Sox and the minors. That'd be a new owner.
But yeah, so that was my guaranteed take is the White Sox will lose 130 games this season.
It's not you know what? You talked me into it. One thing I've learned in this sports media realm is you're never always right, and you should have the ability to adjust your opinion. You just adjusted my opinion. There's They were winning this game 5-2 10 seconds ago.
Yep.
It's 5-4 now, and the
Yep.
Royals have 4 more outs to play with dog crap after dog crap coming in the bullpen.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's absolutely possible.
I can't see 130 losses. I'm going to say they're going to lose 127.
It's so much better, Joe. It's 10% improvement.
They still become the worst team of all time with that record. So,
man. But to counterpoint all of that, if you fix the bullpen, this team could compete.
seems like I'm out.
No, sorry. I'm on my
quits.
phone this week.
I know,
this week.
you're good.
Anytime notifications come through, it blocks out my camera. So
it's all good, buddy.
that was what I had for you guys. So,
and for the record, so everyone knows, there's 3 terrible teams that we are chasing. One is during the modern era, which is the New York Mets from '62. They are 40-120 with a .250 winning percentage. Now, not in the modern era, there is the Boston Braves of 1935 that went 38-115, which was a .248 winning percentage. And then there's the 1916 Philadelphia Athletics, and 36-117 with a .235 winning percentage. Those are the 3 worst teams of all time. And this White Sox team is fighting really, really badly to get in that conversation.
look, the Braves turned it around. They're a World Series contender this year, all right?
Yeah, it only took
What about
65.
I just want to be
75,
worse.
85.
I want to be worse than the 03 Tigers. I think that is like a good enough, like a 21st century benchmark. 43-119. I think it's a lock. That I think is a lock, having 120 losses and being the worst team of the 21st century. And I don't think it gets broken for a very, very long time. Because you made a point earlier when you were speaking of why it is very possible that they only win 5 more games. Fetty's gone. That's 1 less competitive starter every 5 days.
What was
Pham's
his
gone.
WAR? 9 something?
Who?
What was Fetty's WAR? It was pretty high, wasn't it?
4.6.
Yeah, 4.6. So you take that off. You get rid of Pham, who's, a nice bat in the lineup here and there, pinch hit, play every here and there. And Michael Kopech is gone. So maybe you gain a win by that. But
if the numbers are accurate, you gain about 27 from that.
yeah, well, you know what? The thing is, Michael Kopech, for all his struggles, you'll see the difference between Michael Kopech and John Brebbia, who they're bringing in right now. Like, I always say this when, like, mediocre players are missing from your hockey lineup. Like, oh, yeah, maybe Dave Bolland isn't Patrick Kane, but when you replace Dave Bolland with Ben Smith, like, you're not gonna see the same results. Like, there is a difference between an NHL player and an AHL player. Even if the NHL player is bottom 6 material, they're an NHL player. Like, there's a reason they're in the lineup every day. The drop off is pretty. So you'll see some drop off from Michael Kopech, who struggled for his standards when he's replaced with a guy with a 7 ERA.
Yeah,
So they're gonna only get worse.
We can get rid of Cody Whitehair. We got Ryan Bates. It's all gonna be fine, guys. Caleb Williams will stay upright. I swear to God.
That might be the only weakness. Stop.
We got the only weakness. That's the biggest weakness. That's the worst one to have.
Left tackle. Braxton Jones is okay. I really like Darnell Wright. When Tevin Jenkins is healthy, he's good.
When he's healthy.
I know.
He's already not healthy.
I know.
Nate Davis too.
I know. Yeah, no, that's a knock for sure. There's no doubt.
Thank God Aaron Donald's not in the league anymore. He would die up against the Rams this season.
They play him in freaking week 5 or whatever. Too.
I know. Caleb Williams would literally be eaten alive. There'd be like a chunk missing out of his calf by the end of that game.
Have you noticed the Bears play the Rams every year, no matter what?
Yeah,
and it's only because they either play that division as a whole or they finish in the same spot as the
Mhm.
Rams. It's like whenever the Bears are in third place, so are they. Whenever they're in fifth place, so are they. Whenever they're in fourth place, so are they. It is miraculous. I think it won't happen again with another opponent for 50 years.
No, it's so strange, but they've played them like every year for the last 6 years or something like that.
Real quick to change subject back to the White Sox for 1 second, guys.
Why?
Because is there one name that has not been discussed that will get traded before 6 p.m. tomorrow?
If I were them, I would try to get something for Paul DeYoung. He's shown nothing but he had a home run tonight, right? He might be the reason they win if they hang on, which they're not going to.
Paul DeYoung could be a good veteran contributor to a young competitive ball club like Arizona.
Yep, Arizona. Why wouldn't the Yankees want him off the bench? Baltimore off the bench. Like, they wouldn't have to give up a lot for him. I know they're scared to trade anyone. Cash considerations. David Ortiz to be named later. Like, all sorts of different ways that they could get their hands on him. I would look out for Paul DeYoung. That's my one bugaboo.
What about our friend of the show?
Gavin?
I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't think there's really a market for him.
Yeah, big lefty, power bat, pretty much boom or bust.
He's just too inconsistent. He's really streaky. You have to play him a lot in order to see benefits from his style. And the teams that are going to be willing to do that are not teams that are going to be willing to give up assets to get him.
Yep. If baseball stadiums were 360, 380, 360, he'd hit 50 home runs a year.
Yeah.
He's got the most warning track power I've ever seen.
And maybe somebody sees that and says, like, "Hey, we can fix this." And
and he's a lefty, which makes the risk to reward ratio skewed a little bit.
Well, I mean, how about you take him to Yankee Stadium? That's like a little league field, and all of a sudden,
that's what I've been saying for a while. He's going to be a Yankee eventually.
Right? You put him in Houston, you put him in Fenway. You put him in some of these stadiums with short porches, and all of a sudden, it could happen.
I like that. I really do like that. The Yankees, I think. It's close to a no shot now, only because they traded for Jazz Chisholm Jr. and they're gonna run him at third base and center field. He's never played third base before in his life, but he did today and hit a home run. And then I'm pretty sure Mike Stanton returned. So
that's big for them, actually. But he's a righty.
He's a DH though, and he's playing DH over Gavin Sheets 10 out of 10 days. But there's the lefty platoon opportunity. So I guess I could see it. If he platooned DH with Stanton, or platoon might even be too generous.
Do they still have
off
Rizzo
the bench?
First base?
Yeah, but I think is it Rizzo? Is Rizzo hurt?
He's hurt, right?
Yeah, Rizzo's hurt right now.
So
but
maybe
if
they do pick him up as a lefty first baseman,
and that would be a good opportunity too. The Yankees, they do make sense. I just Stanton takes a majority of the plate appearances as the DH, so they'd have to find a role for him for sure. But damn, that'd be cool with the porch. That would be nice with the porch. If I were him, I would just try to hit it to the porch every single time I'm at bat.
Love it, guys. Look at that. A solid hour and a half of White Sox talk at the trade deadline. More to come to.
We're done with White Sox?
We don't have to be, but
I'm just asking.
No, I would like to smile.
Okay, cool.
Oh, he switched his hat. Yeah. Let's go, Bears.
I had a Bears hat around here, but I don't know where it's at.
Yeah. The Bears play in the Hall of Fame game on Thursday. NFL football is back.
Praise our Lord and Savior, George Stanley Hallis. I am so excited to have football back. They play freaking Thursday. Like, they open the league calendar starting Thursday, which means Hard Knocks probably start. When does Hard Knocks start?
August.
No.
Let's go.
Sooner than that.
I think it's August 6th.
August 6th.
Go. Yeah. August 6th. Let's go. I cannot wait. I like Hard Knocks. I don't lock in on every episode every year because summer is kind of like where I'm not annoying about sports as much. So, I try not to like completely make everything about it in the summer. But when the Bears are on Hard Knocks, I'm watching Hard Knocks every minute of every episode. I'll stay up till 2 a.m. if I have to. I am so excited for Hard Knocks. That is going to be must-see TV. I also can't wait to see what Aldo Gandia and friends come up with in reaction to Hard Knocks. He's been wonderful on the Barroom Network's Twitter account lately. I think Aldo's Bears training camp coverage has been second to none.
Really good.
Second to none. I've noticed it's good every year. This year, Aldo really, with the press conferences and the tweets reacting to things and retweeting Greg Gabriel's and the Mike Norths and everybody else that he works with on Bears coverage. It is top quality. I cannot wait for this season to start. I've actually become a pretty big Dan and Aldo Bare Their Souls fan lately too. They crack me up the way they go from talking about Dan's penis to, the Chicago Bears within 5 seconds.
Yeah, it's wild. I got nothing else to say about that.
They talk about it a lot.
Like an uncomfortable amount. I used to listen to that show a lot more when I drove for a living and I had time to listen to that show, but I don't have time for like a 6-hour podcast every week anymore. So
I love
like I even try to put it on like 1.5 times speed, 2x speed, and it's just like, no,
I even love when he starts the show. He goes, Dan, how you doing, my friend? He just goes on with the word friend for like 30 seconds. It is just, I love Aldo. We need to get Aldo on as a guest. I want to hear his thoughts on this craptacular White Sox team.
Yeah, Joe, producer, book it next week, please. Thank you.
I'm sure that could happen.
That was not a request.
Although, if you're still listening, I'll reach out.
See you next week.
Aldo comes on next week, or I walk. All right.
Well, I spoke with Aldo
Chris
earlier.
Getz, that's how it's done. Just so you know.
I spoke with him last week.
I spoke with him today because Bar Down is going to have a new time. And kind of a new, I don't want to say feel because it's not a new feel. It's just going to be me screaming about the Devils for 82 games again. But it'll be a little bit different than what it's been. That's my hint. And I'm not telling anybody on camera the time or anything yet, but it's coming. Probably a couple more weeks to kind of get our ducks in a row. But yeah, it's coming back with a vengeance. I'm already pissed. Did it go? Did it go? Did it go? It went a grand slam for the Royals in the top of the 8th. It is 9-5. No, it's 8-5. It's 8-5.
Are you serious?
Oh my God. It is Bobby Witt Jr. with a grand slam in the top of the 8th. And the White Sox are now losing 8-5. This is incredible.
To be the franchise record 15th loss in a row.
I love this team, I think. Oh my God. And I'm talking about the Royals. No, I'm kidding.
I don't know. The White Sox, they've made it so easy to root against them this year, though. That
I didn't even debate in my head when that ball was in the air whether or not I wanted Robert to catch it. Like, I wanted it in the bleachers. Like, you have it wasn't even a debate. Bobby Witt Jr. especially. We just talked about his dad. Scott Podsednik was the player to be traded later. That is awesome. And now my guy Vinny Pasquantino's up to bat too. Hey.
They didn't tie the game, Dad. They just broke open the game. How about that?
Yeah, freaking grand. Technically, it was tied for about 5 seconds when only the guy on third touched home, but then the guy on second touched home, and then the guy on first touched home, and then Bobby Witt Jr. touched home. Oh,
theoretically, actually, if the second guy missed third base, then the next 3 guys would all be out for passing him on the base pass.
True, but it's commercial going into the 9th, so it counts. This is great. I'm tweeting that home run. Where's my phone?
This is so poetic.
Oh,
this is what we're here for, folks.
I love this show. I love you guys. I love this. This is great.
Did you see that video of the guy from Dumb and Dumber when he's in the bathroom and he like shits all over the walls and Bob Saget screams at him?
There's shit everywhere.
We're Bob Saget and Chris Getz is the guy on the toilet.
Oh, it's in my pillowcase.
There's shit everywhere.
It's in the VCR tray.
Oh, that's what the people come here for. And there's a lot of you watching. So first off, thank you for tuning in and listening to us.
Why?
There were some really, really nice tweets sent out today. We got a little bit of recognition amongst some other great podcasts that are out there. I'm pulling it up just so I can make sure I get the handle right. But yeah, we got a call out from Todd Welter. He said plenty of room in the White Sox sandbox for content. Recommended if you're still a diehard or just to check in, listen to. We got listed alongside Sox Machine, J.R. Fagan, from the 108, of course, Future Sox, Sox in the Basement, Chai Sports, Bums, The Blackout Show, our friends over there, The Good Guys, TB, Talk Black, Sox on 35th, Southside Sox, and the 3 sexy South Burbs Hitmen.
I got to be completely honest. I didn't know that there were that many other people out there with so little to do to talk about the White Sox. I mean, we are a rough fan base right now. So
We're a bunch of suckers.
props to anybody else out there with the dedication and commitment to go through with the show. You know, whether it be daily, weekly, monthly, bi-weekly, annually. Shit, I feel like even one show a year for this team right now is draining. So props to everybody else out there doing our things. And I don't know, fantasy baseball league next year, all White Sox podcasts.
I'm in a fantasy baseball league right now, and I can't wait for it to be over.
I wholeheartedly in the last year and a half, I believed this before because like the Cubs have a lot of smart fans. I really do believe that. I'm a hater deep down in my core. I'm not this year a hater. You haven't seen me tweet one mean thing about the Cubs this season. I just refuse to do it when the White Sox are 27-81. I just refuse to do it. If the White Sox are ever good again, I'll go back to shit talking the Cubs. I'll have no problem with it. I like doing it. It's funny. It's fun. It's all in good fun. I don't mean anything personal. It's just it's baseball banter. But I believe they have smart fans. I also believe they have some every fan base has incredibly stupid fans. I think teams like the Cubs and the Red Sox and the Yankees, they have a couple extra dumb fans because they do have a group of fans who are fans for the sake of being a fan of something. You know, not necessarily baseball. I think all the huge teams have that group in a fan base. I really don't. The White Sox, they have that, but not in scores the way the Cubs do, or the Yankees, or the Red Sox.
I feel like the White Sox end up with a lot of indifferent fans, whereas like they don't care enough to be dumb. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. And when they're 27-81, they're gone. They're tuned out.
Yeah.
If the Cubs were 27-81, I don't believe Wrigley Field would be as packed as maybe a Cub fan would claim, because it wasn't really fully packed in 2021 after they traded Rizzo, Bryant, and Baez. I went to a lot of games that year. It wasn't as sold out as you would think, but they would still pull in a fair amount of people compared to, say, the White Sox, the Rays, the A's, all these bottom feeder teams. But in the last year and a half, I've learned the White Sox fans are actually a little extra smart and a little extra dedicated than I realized.
Yeah, we're pretty
cool. None of the podcasts have died. None of the White Sox Twitter banter has died. If anything, it's gotten better. I've learned no matter what side of the Tony La Russa fence you were on, you were wrong. I was wrong.
That's
a couple other people we've debated about it, they were also wrong. He wasn't good or the problem. Like it's just so painfully obvious that both sides were wrong, and we all owe each other an apology, frankly, because it's just
only the White Sox could be so inept as to put us in a lose-lose situation like that as a fan base, where there is no chance of ever predicting what happened there correctly, to ever say like, no, he's not going to get fired, he's going to have health problems. Well, all right, he was, in his 70s, 80s, maybe we could have guessed that. But like, he's going to take him to a playoff and make them look incompetent at the same time. And you're going to be like, no. He's going to be the problem and the solution. No. I mean, in 3 years, in 3 short years, you will realize this team was far beyond Tony La Russa's help, and maybe he had them overachieving. Like,
it's possible.
I don't think.
But then he ruined it with the Yermin. Like, it wasn't the direct problem, but the team was never the same after the Yermin Mercedes incident against the Twins, the grand slam on 3-0. They were basically 500 the rest of the way. Coming into June, they were like, what? Weren't they something like 41-19 or something like that?
But even still, they were better then than they have been since he left.
Oh yeah. Not
and
even
like
close.
it's like how is this guy the problem and not the problem all at once? It's so
absolutely
mind-boggling.
Absolutely. I would apologize to any Tony La Russa truther. I would expect them to admit that, you know, things weren't perfect with him. He wasn't great. Like, he wasn't the guy for the job.
Even your biggest fan?
I would have a civil conversation with him right now. I'm not
Call him up.
I'm not
we know that's not happening, so we're not going to do that.
No, it's not going to. I'm not a grudgeful person. There's really nobody outside of like people who cause violence or hatred or racism or anything like that. Like, those are the people I'll hate forever. But like, no, I would have a civil baseball conversation. 100%.
Did you guys see James Fagan's tweet a little while ago?
Well, I was Fagan who reported that about the prospect.
That too, but the White Sox have scored more than 4 runs in a game for the first time in 3 weeks.
And they're going to lose. This is awesome.
Can't make it up, but guys, it's been a ton of fun tonight. We're going on an hour and 40 minutes. We'll get to the shout outs unless you guys have anything additional you want to. Oh, but before we get to the shout outs, huge congratulations to our buddy Vinnie Parisi on his engagement. Let's give him a round of applause, everybody.
Yay.
Thank you guys. It was a very fun time.
And Katie, of course.
Yeah, you know, she got engaged too, Joe. You jerk.
That's why I said it.
Hey,
no, I'm kidding.
I said it before you went. Hope she says yes so you can both be engaged.
Yeah, because it was the way I worded it too, like a dummy. I was like, I'm going to come back engaged, guys. And you're like, good. Is she going to too? That was freaking gold. That was gold. But yeah, it was a great time. Happy that, you know, we were able to have our immediate families there, and it was everything I ever dreamed of. So glad you guys were able to be a part of it and know about it and be in my life during this awesome time.
It's fantastic, man. I hope it all went well. I hope that it went as according to plan as it could have, because we all know it never does.
It did just about as well as it possibly could have. So.
Oh, good. Your wedding day will totally make up for it, though.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Especially a winter wedding.
Well, I tell you, man,
winter wedding.
Yeah.
I mean,
this
I did
year?
April in the mountains.
No,
so.
25.
Congrats, man.
April in the mountains.
April in the mountains. It's basically winter. So
Los Montañas.
It snowed the morning of our wedding. It was actually gorgeous. It made a perfect little, like, it just snowed like until about 2 hours before the ceremony. So we had this nice fresh coat, but it wasn't like actively snowing when everything happened. It was great. I wish you the best of luck with all of that. I tell you, everything it felt like went wrong during the proposal. So during our wedding, everything kind of went nice and smooth. It was actually a pretty, for all intents and purposes, a pretty stress-free day, which is surprising for a wedding. So I really hope that yours goes the same way, that the next few months are as easy as planning a wedding can be for you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you. We're gonna try.
Hoorah. Well, congratulations, bud. And what better way to lead things off with our shout outs than let Vinny take things away.
Shout out for the first time on this show, my fiance, Katie. Let's go. Very excited. Wouldn't be here without you. I love that you support this show and are here for me always. You don't mind that I give Joe and Zim an hour. Tonight was a longer show than we've had this season, but it's kind of on par for, you know, what our shows typically are in general. And, you know, it's not necessarily always easy as a, you know, the significant other in this situation. So to you, I thank you for that. And I'm sure right now, your two lovely ladies are listening to this going, you're damn right. Freaking get out here and feed the kid, jerk. You know, even though it's 9:50. But yeah, I appreciate it very much. Shout out to everyone who helped me pull it off. And, you know, it was very much a community effort. So that's my shout out for the week.
Love it, man. Congrats again.
Thank you.
Mr. Zimmerman.
Well, big shout out to Vinnie and Katie. Congratulations again to you two. I hope that you guys have celebrated thoroughly and that you will continue to do so all the way up and after your wedding, because that's what it's all about. It's all about being happy, and that's what you should put first and foremost in any relationship. And I hope that you guys remember that. My few words of wisdom as you plan towards the wedding, just remember your love for each other is greater than the stress for planning any of this. So
Hoorah.
That's great advice.
you're a team now, man. You're a team. Do it together. That's what just that's my one bit of advice. It's just, yeah, do it together and stay happy. Happiness above all else. So
I love that.
and if you do it together, you'll stay happy, you know?
Absolutely.
So yeah, outside of that though, just a big shout out to, you know, all the listeners out there, you know, the family that's kept us going. My basement's in complete disarray right now. And once more, I continue to repeat, none of it would be possible without the family that has helped us get to this point and helped us push through this point. And I should be back to normal next week. My back cave will be looking quite batty. I've begun work. Well, you can't really see it in this shot, but there's some tape back there in the corner as I am about to begin painting my ceiling. So
ceiling white, baby.
What's that?
Ceiling white.
No.
You're not going white? You're going black with your soul?
Nice black ceiling. All
right.
I have crappy ceiling tiles up there, and I'm like, paint them black to cover up all the blemishes. And with if the paint is too heavy for them and they start to sag or anything, well, I want to redo them anyway, which is part of the reason I'm painting them in the first place. So if the paint makes them sag or droop or anything like that, it just gives me more reason to tear them out sooner and replace them. So it's kind of a win-win for me.
Well, there you go.
But this whole room, you know, is intended to be a workspace and movie space and hangout space for the kids anyway. So I feel like it'll give it good vibes down here. We'll see how it goes. Beyond that, just, you know, shout outs to everybody listening. I know I already said that, but I mean, we couldn't do a show without listeners, so it does mean a lot. I don't know. I feel like it's been a while since we've done a show. I haven't talked to you guys about so much.
Had a week off last week. I was in New York, so yeah.
I don't know if I've talked to you guys since, but a shout out to the boys from Real Friends. Went to see them a few weeks back with my oldest son, and they took some time for him, which, you know, I could care less if they want to take time for me. I'm a 30-year-old man who I have better things in my life to do than worship rock stars. But to a 10-year-old kid to take 10 minutes and say hi and talk to him about his life and give him a pair of drumsticks and say, you know, go beat some shit, like, means a lot to him. So big shout out to those guys.
Sweet,
it was
man.
a really, really unique opportunity for him. And I know he's gotten to talk to him before and say hi. There's not a lot of 10-year-olds going to rock and roll shows, so
Probably not, but still cool.
it means a lot. Yeah. So I'll leave it there. Real Friends from the south suburbs of Chicago, Illinois, and Tinley Park. Give them a listen if you haven't heard them. They just released a new song. If you like pop punk music, emo music, Midwest emo, you know, the stuff you listened to in middle school, you'll like them.
Or when you're approaching 30. But maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, I've been listening to Real Friends for about 10 years now. I realized that the other day. So
It's killer, man. But speaking of pop punk, have you guys heard the cover of from Magnolia Park of Eye to Eye from the Goofy movie? It's actually
I have
really
not.
good.
I've been waiting for the whole album to drop so that I can just like jam it like all the way through.
Yeah, Magnolia Park did Eye to Eye. It's very, very good.
Yeah, I saw Simple Plan had another one on there as well.
Yeah, Simple Plan did Can You Feel the Love Tonight? Also very good.
Yeah.
Curious to see who else they get pop punk for that album. A whole new sound from Disney, whatever.
We know it won't be Real Friends. I can tell you that much. I would be surprised. They're an independent artist right now. They don't have a label, so I would be very surprised to see them working with somebody like Disney. But you know, maybe some of our Simple Plan made music for it. Granted, they've never really stopped making music or stopped touring, but maybe we see a re-release of like Newfound Glory doing Let It Go from Frozen. They did that on a recent album. Maybe we see some of those older bands though from like the early 2000s, not necessarily reuniting but resurfacing for some of this kind of stuff. I think it'd be pretty cool.
Hell yeah. I'm
Get some of
excited
the elder
to
millennials back into it.
see what else they get for it, man. Yeah,
Can you
for
like
sure.
preview this album?
They are released as individual singles on Spotify.
Oh yeah, it's just the single on Apple as well.
Yeah. Supposedly there's a whole album coming.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I want to know when that comes out. I'm interested.
They don't have a date yet, and they don't have a track list because I want to know who the bands are.
Yeah, same. I love when like punk bands cover like shit. Whatever. It could be any. I was obsessed with Punk Goes Crunk, all the Punk Goes Pops.
Well,
So
Vinny, are you familiar with Newfound Glory's trifecta from the screen to your stereo?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I
Just
love
making sure.
I love Newfound Glory in general.
And
Oh my God, I've seen
number
them so
2 is the best one, by the way.
I
They
don't know.
put
Number
this.
3 was pretty good.
This doesn't relate to that, but it's music. College football, 25. Which shout out
Yeah.
to that. I don't know why it's not showing, but they put a lot of the music from that game, like the marching bands for each university, and they are awesome to listen to. I know
Yes.
it's not everybody's cup of tea, but if I throw on a couple of these, I'm gonna freaking go banana lands.
Is
It
Katie
gets the
watching,
blood
Vin,
pumping.
Watching what?
the show?
Oh, I have no idea.
Well, whether or not, if she is or not, I got my dynasty started on NCAA as Notre Dame.
Oh, nice. Yeah, she will be thrilled about that.
I'm 3-1 to start the year.
Nice. I just got it yesterday because of all the chaos. But I started with NIU, and I'm going to play my first game either tonight or tomorrow and see what I can do, see what I can level myself up, eventually become Alabama's coach is the goal.
I started a new road to glory in NCAA 14.
There you go.
Middle linebacker for the Utah Utes.
Hell yeah.
Love it, man. I'll make my shout outs sweet so we can get out of here under 2 hours. Go ahead.
Just super quick for you. You mentioned music. Weird Al put out a new song for the first time in like 7 or 8 years.
Really?
Last week.
I didn't even hear about it.
It's a polka mix, so it is what it is. It's just all the songs that have come out since the last time he released an album, which was 10 years ago. So
Nice. Gotta check that out. I'll make my shout outs nice and quick. As always, my beautiful wife, Catherine, carrying our next child. Find out another couple weeks what we got cooking in there, a boy or a girl. We'll find out here soon.
surprise, it's twins.
Did you find out for Audrey?
Yeah, we found out. We found out. Yeah, we were planners. We like to paint and know what colors everything's gonna be. So yeah,
I get it.
I get it.
Totally get it.
shout out to our 2.5-year-old daughter Audrey, who's now like potty trained and this big girl running around and just hilarious and awesome. It's amazing.
You're so lucky.
It's like a lottery.
I mean, there's still an accident here or there, but you know,
I have a 3-year-old that tells me, "Daddy, I need to use the bathroom because I just pooped."
And he's got
I'm like,
baby
I'm like,
number
you
2
just
on the way.
I'm like, you just told me all of this. Like, you gave me a full description of what happened. We can use the big boy potty.
That's awesome.
it's wild, but I'm
Congratulations, Joe.
thank
for
you.
real.
Love Audrey. My Great Dane Maverick. He's just a hoot and a holler. Want to give shout out to you guys. Appreciate you always doing the show, talking ball, and shout out to Vinny and Katie. Congrats again on the engagement.
Thank you.
Shout out to the whole chat room for being active tonight. It was a lot of fun. Aldo Gandia, the man with the plan, letting us do this every week, and hopefully a guest next week on the show. And I got to give a shout out to the Willis twins. I on Friday I produced their show and I was their guest. We had a great time talking fantasy football, and they talked Bears, all that jazz. We were going to talk.
I want to see.
What?
I said, "Ooh, I want to see."
Yeah, you can go back and watch it.
I'm
It was
going to
good.
bookmark it right now.
And we were going to talk Blink-182 because they're playing Lollapalooza coming up here, but we didn't have time, so we didn't even get to Blink. But we talked a little bit of Deadpool, which was a very good film. And that was it. But shout out across the board. Good stuff. Shout out to Chris Getz for being a walking turd.
Have we ever ended the show at the exact same time as a White Sox game ending? Because Bobby Witt Jr. made a sick diving play, and he throws it over to first, and this ball game is over. 15
Franchise
in a row.
record, 15 straight losses. And we'll be here with you through the rest of the season talking about it all for the South Burbs Hitmen. The White Sox suck balls, but I'm Joe Mandel. That's Vinnie Parisi. And below, in not the Death Star, is Steven Zim Zimmerman. No matter what, no matter how stinky they are, no matter how much shit is covering their face, the White Sox, they're still our team. So no matter what, as always, let's go White Sox. Please make some decent trades tomorrow. You probably won't, but we'll see what happens. See you guys next week. Adios, muchachos.